It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, January 31st, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the Foundational Figures Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Ooh, all right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Wednesday. It is Hump Day, the middle of the week, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the week thus far. You know, these weeks are going by very, very quickly. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Q&A Thursday. Get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. I've already got 3-4 questions coming out already. So send them to me, DM me, comment them. I would love to hear what you guys, to hear those questions, what's going on in your life right now. If you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. Now, this week's Sunday message title is Be Thankful. God takes action with the one who knows. All right. So yes, it is Thursday it's Wednesday, and I can't believe we're already in the middle of the week. For me, this week, I'm not sure about you guys, it is super fast. Like, we're just blazing through this week. I was so tired this morning because I got home late last night. I went out with the campus for someone's birthday, and it was really fun, but I got home a little bit late for someone of my age. You know, so you know what? I was listening to someone talking about this on YouTube, and they're like, you know, when you get older, you want to be home by 9. You want to be in the place, you know, you want to be home, right? You want to be in a comfortable place. So I was like, you know what? That's kind of true. But then not true at the same time, because I think my brain still needs a lot more maturing to do. But this morning I was so tired, it felt like Monday to me. That's how tired I was. So I had a wonderful time last night, but my body can only take so much of this beating of not getting enough sleep or sleeping a little bit too late. But just super grateful and thankful for all these amazing people that are working and running hard for this history too. What was I was just going to say something. Today, once again, we do have Health is Happiness. And last week, Dr. Ziny talked about anxiety. And there could be a 2-part series for today and next week on depression. So it might not be you. You could be like, have mild depression, or you have some friends or family that might be going through these things. Definitely listen to these reruns we're doing right now. And it's Dr. Ziny talking about depression. So look forward to that at the last segment for today. So yeah, it is Wednesday. Man, there's a lot of things going through my mind lately, but for some reason, I feel this week I am more reinvigorated, right, with this podcast and what I want to say and what's on my mind. And I hope it's something that will continue to, I'll continue to gain more confidence, but making sure that the confidence doesn't turn to arrogance and I start saying things that, that shouldn't be said. Because that's one thing I don't want. I don't want to hurt people. Like one of the conversations I had with a good friend of mine yesterday was, they were just very, very thankful that, I don't name names. Like, I really don't name names. Like, the only time I really name names is usually what happened last year. Like, we're in the thick of it, in the middle of it with like KJS and stuff. And like, that's the big topic that's coming out. Everyone's heard it, right? But when it comes to more personal things, private things, I don't name who I'm talking to. I don't even tell you what country. I usually don't even say what country they're from. And whenever I do say someone's name, I almost always ask, hey, if I don't, it's probably my mistake. But I'll ask, hey, you don't mind me saying your name? But I'm cool with them saying I'd rather be anonymous, and I'm fine with that too, because the most important thing is the subject that we talk about that kind of brings about this good discussion amongst the people here too. So that is something that. This friend of mine was saying, it's that's one of the reasons, he says, why people probably keep listening is because it's done really respectfully on this channel without, saying names and saying or talking bad about other people and stuff like that too. And I think that's something that we have to be more conscious of. And I think that's something that comes out in the Sunday message a lot of times is, hey, we got to love each other, respect each other and stuff like that too. So I am very, very, I feel that I have a new thought process, not new thought process. I don't know. I just feel like after last week where we had that big topic come out about marriage and stuff, and then it made me reach this point where I had to kind of look at myself again and then kind of break through and say, you know what, this is who I am and this is what I need to do. I don't want to be like not pushed. I don't want to be like oversensitive, like, oh, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, because it's not about hurting people's feelings. It's more about, hey, what is the thing that we really feel is the best thing we should do from this point on? What's an opinion, but not a disrespectful opinion, but more of, this is what we want to do moving forward. This is what I really feel about this situation right here. So, I'm talking about the subjects I'm very passionate about too, and things that I've realized more deeply about also. So I hope it is something that all of us can really understand better too, right? Well, understand? I don't know. Maybe as you listen, you agree or disagree, and I welcome all the agreements and all the disagreements too, because this should be a free-flowing platform for people to have good discussions, okay? So Chinese New Year is around the corner. And I was talking to another friend over here, and basically they're telling me like, hey, you know what? You should kind of do some research on Chinese New Year, like superstitions and stuff. I was like, all right, let me take a look at the superstition. So I found a couple things that are like superstitious stuff, but I found that there is just one common theme when it comes to Chinese New Year superstitions. There's one theme, and there's only one theme. And when you listen to this, you're going to be like, oh, okay, we know what it is, right? So they say on the first day of Chinese New Year, which is February 10th this year, I believe, on the first day of Chinese New Year, do not sweep or clean garbage because it means you are sweeping away your wealth. Interesting, right? So it's more symbolic, makes sense. They said don't eat porridge for breakfast on the first day of Chinese New Year because porridge is considered for poor people. So it's basically like that's going to be your future for the rest of the year. You're going to be poor, right? Don't get a haircut or wash your hair on Chinese New Year because it's like cutting and washing away your wealth. You guys start to see like the theme that's coming here, right? Don't wash your clothes on the first 2 days of Chinese New Year because you guessed it, you wash away your wealth. When you're giving the red envelopes, the ang pao, right? When you give them the red envelopes, when there's lucky money inside, but you cannot give money with odd numbers. Right? You can't give like a 161. I'm not going to give you $103, whatever it is. Luck, Chinese believe that luck comes in pairs, so no odd numbers, right? This luck is referring to money, right? Here's a cool one. It's like avoid, I'm not sure how you avoid this, but avoid breaking bowls, plates, and glasses, etc. Breaking symbolizes incompleteness and bad luck. Breaking a bowl, plate, glass, vase, or mirror during the Spring Festival is considered a bringer of bad fortune, monetary loss, or family breakup. Another one, this one's kind of interesting too. It says, a married daughter is not allowed to visit the house of her parents on Chinese New Year, the day, right? The Lunar New Year. As people believe it brings bad luck to the parents, causing economic hardship for the family. You notice the one main theme? Everything is about money. Like, it's all about money, about wealth. It's quite interesting because I kind of get, like, when I hear these superstitions, I kind of see why Chinese people get so stressed out about money. And there's a lot of comparisons. We look at they're looking at money way more significantly than others, and they use a ton of superstitions, and it's all about money. And I'm pretty sure that even if people don't believe it, just to be on the safe side, they don't want to break any of these superstitions, right? That's just kind of the feeling is, because in the West, I don't think we have that many national superstitions that give bad luck specifically for money. Is there? What we know is if you break a mirror, that's bad luck. Bad luck could be monetary. It could be, it's any type of bad luck. Walking under a ladder. What else is there? Like if a black cat crosses by. We have a bunch of weird stuff too. but it's not specifically about money. So I find that very, very interesting that in Chinese, why is there such a huge emphasis on money, right? Like, actually, there's one that was funny. The funniest one that I saw was on the first 15 days of Chinese New Year, there's no killing. And I'm like, what? It's considered a bad omen to spill blood. So I was just like, is it like not just the first, like are people killing each other on all the other days except for the first 15 days? Like, what is going, like, do not kill in the first 15 days of Chinese New Year. And then later I read, it's like, oh, it's talking about the animals we eat. I'm sure it's talking about human beings too, but that's probably not a common thing. But it's talking about the animals that you eat. Make sure you kill them before Chinese New Year begins, not in the first 15 days. So it kind of sounded funny in the beginning when it's like, don't kill. I was like, is there a real problem with this where people are actually killing each other like all the time, but everyone takes a break? It's like, I'm going to kill you. Hey, Chinese New Year. All right. Guns down, everyone. Let's have we'll give each other red envelopes and we're going to have like some pork stew together. And after the 15 days, we can go back to killing each other. Like that's what it kind of felt when I was reading it. But later I found out it's more so about animals and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was funny, but it wasn't. Maybe it's just me. My brain is funny. That's probably the difference there. Okay. So last week, I was lecturing. So I was lecturing the lesson, the related missions of Jesus and John the Baptist. Okay. And of course, as we're going through this lesson, it reminds me of like the John the Baptist of this time period, right? We all know about this, like Unification Church, stuff like that too, right? So, and I remember a friend was telling me about a book that was written about this church. And it's super interesting because it talks about the relationship of Jesus and John the Baptist. And it talks about how there was like, even in that church, you have the main guy, the pastor, the reverend, right? And he had someone underneath him that played a John the Baptist role, but it was so significant, right? And it was showing that how big the role of this John the Baptist actually was. So in the book, they call this John the Baptist figure, his role is a champion, right? Meaning someone who champions the cause, champions an idea. And every great person needs someone to champion their ideas or purposes. So it's almost like, imagine you have this great vision and idea, right? And you're the one that spends all that time, like maybe it's a new phone or whatever it is, and the phone electronics, all the microprocessors, all these different things, you know it inside out. But since you spend all your time just working and perfecting your craft on that, you don't know much about marketing. You don't know much about gaining investors. You don't know any of those things. So you need someone who is a little bit more physical, who can champion your idea or purpose, right? Because the main person, right, like Jesus, his whole life is spent on spirituality, learning the word, becoming the man of mission. That's everything he learns. Someone who is not this grand physical figure, not an expert in marketing, social networking, meeting the right people, getting connections and such, like that's not Jesus's role. There needed to be that next person that would be able to bring his dreams into reality, someone to champion his idea of bringing the ideal world on the earth, right? And in the Unification Church, Reverend Moon had his connections, right? How did he get, if you go onto YouTube, you'll see him speaking in front of the U.S. Congress and Senate. Like, tell me, you have a Korean guy speaking in Korean with a translator talking about God in front of, like, the most powerful people in the U.S. And the big question comes, too, is, like, how the heck did he get connected? It was because of his John the Baptist. He had that second guy right under him who had all the connections, right? So how was he able to do it? He had all the skills, but he needed the John the Baptist to connect him so that he can make these connections, right? And he could preach in front of U.S. Congress, whatever it was, right? And it made me think a lot about the roles of John the Baptist and Jesus, right? And how it should be working like at our miniaturized level. Like, think about this. At a miniaturized level, sometimes there's a Jesus, right? Or the main person who has a new idea. Someone has a new idea, a new method, a new style. Why? Because things aren't working right now. And there's something we need to try to implement in our churches and such. And it's super interesting, right? Because what happens is if you don't have a John the Baptist, someone who champions the idea, you have no idea. Like, just look at how people react to new ideas. In most cases, people want to play it, like I said, leaders usually want to play it safe. Leaders usually don't want to take any risks, even if it's calculated risk. Leaders are more reactionary. They're more passive, right? From what I've noticed, let's just say in general in Providence, right? And if you don't have a champion, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to bring that message out. Like, let me give you an example here. I talked to another friend from another friend of mine, and we were talking about choir, right? And when we talk about choir, like for me, you guys know me, I'm a huge advocate of choir. I think choir plays such a huge role in they play such a huge role in the entire service because they're singing the intros, they're singing the offering, they're singing the choir song, like and like in between the representative prayer. Like there's so many things that this choir, like a huge group of people with one voice giving glory to God, they play such a huge role in the service. And my question was, how do you recruit for your choir, right? And this is something that is not just this person, like, it's just a natural, normal thing to say is, oh, we'll make an announcement, right? We're going to make an announcement. I was like, okay, what else? I was like, who do you make announcements to? Oh, once a year we'll do an announcement here and, we'll do it like this. And I was like, well, how do you attract more people? I was like, well, and they said to me, like, oh, we give free breakfast. And I thought to myself that's kind of a perk. It's not like going to be the reason why I'm going to go do choir. You know what I mean? Because going to choir means that I have to wake up an extra hour and a half earlier, go to church early, practice on the Saturday, go to church earlier on the Sunday. And is that sleep, that 1 hour and a half less amount of sleep worth a free breakfast? And the answer is no. It's just not. It's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not worth it for me. Like, imagine that you're someone who's busy all the time anyways. You have a job, you're working, you have children, whatever it is. What would make you get out of bed earlier to practice on Saturday and then go to church extra early to practice for choir, right? And the thing that I understood is like, wow, we have these great, talented, awesome people in Providence that have their expertise and their skills, right? And what's needed is, like a John the Baptist, is you need the person to champion the idea, right? Like you can't just give an announcement once a year. You need to have a campaign. You need to have someone out in the front doing what? Telling people, inspiring people how great and why we should join choir. You know what I mean? Like knowing that how important it is. Like one of the questions that does come up that I've heard some people talk about is, well, some people don't really like choir because it's not really connected to evangelism. And for me, I find that quite sad is you're only going to be involved in something that involves evangelism. But someone who is a great champion for the idea of choir is going to answer that question of evangelism, right? Like, how does this help evangelism? And the answer is, like, for me, I would straight up be like showing people a great vision of what choir should look like. I would show them some of the greatest choirs in the world, right? Showing how inspirational, how graceful, how happy would God be seeing this type of choir. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a big thing where there needs to be a champion for very important ideas, because you can have the most important and greatest ideas, greatest methods and styles all out there, but because there's no one championing it, right? There's no one there to really show people how great it really is. Because I'll tell you this, when are people going to start joining choir? What will make someone go out and wake up extra early to go? And the answer is, it's when they're inspired. That's the answer. People are not going to be inspired by food. They're just not. It's a perk. It's an extra added bonus, but it shouldn't be the thing that says, hey, if you come, give you a free breakfast. You know what I mean? It's like, that is something that's an extra perk. But if you really think about it, the one time people will listen and say, I got it, this is what I want to do, is they need to be inspired, right? Just like for me too. Remember when I told you guys I did 40 days, a 40-day prayer condition of 7 hours of prayer a day. I just finished listening to a testimony by someone in Korea who did it 7 hours a day, 40 days straight. And they evangelized X amount of people. And I was inspired from that moment. And on the day, we listened to that from 7 to 10 p.m. And right after, I went to go grab a slice of pizza. And at 12 a.m., I began that prayer condition on the same day. Right? Think about it. How many people want to pray 7 hours a day? How many people want to forego sleep and then go overnight from midnight all the way to 4 a.m., then do pre-dawn service, and then keep praying until the 7 hours are over? How many people want to do that? And the answer is very few. How will it happen? You need to be inspired, right? And it's always this secondary person who is just as important, which is the John the Baptist. Right? Think about Reverend Moon, right? The unification. This guy couldn't reach out to such huge and big names in U.S. Congress and Senate. They couldn't. He couldn't because his focus went on a singular thing, right? And, I'll tell you how crazy, this guy was so connected to, the government that he was even doing his, some rituals inside the U.S. Senate buildings, right? That's how crazy. This is how connected he was. And yeah, there was, I even saw in 2004, there was a news article how Reverend Moon actually the U.S. Senate was used for a bizarre ritual in which the Reverend, the leader of the Unification Church, was crowned and declared himself the Messiah in the presence of more than a dozen Republican and Democratic members of Congress. Right? Think about it. 2004, this happened in a U.S. Senate building, right? Now, I'm just trying to show you that this is how impactful the John the Baptist can be to help the leader. And it kind of made me look at our different miniaturized levels of people in churches. There's going to be always a Jesus and a John the Baptist. Sometimes the head leader is the Jesus. Sometimes the head leader is the John the Baptist. Sometimes the department leader is Jesus and John. People are they're interchanging in these roles depending on who is the main person, the expert in that area, and who's the one pushing that idea, right? But what does that mean for us? It means that who are we? We are the John the Baptist of this time period. We play that really significant role in how this history grows and how this history is going to reach newer heights. I think that we need to realize how significant the role of John the Baptist is. And it should make people understand, once we realize and understand this, that even if we're in the career department, we should not be just regular workers in the world. We should strive to move forward, move up the ladder, right? Move in the direction God wants us to move in, right? Whether it's a company, organization, being an entrepreneur, these are all things that God, that we should realize about ourselves, right? And there's this great verse, and as I was teaching this lecture, it reminded me of this. It was in John chapter 3, and it was Jesus and John the Baptist were on other sides of the river, and they were both baptizing, right? And then, of course, what happens is John the Baptist proclaims and says, everyone's waiting for the bridegroom. And now that the bridegroom has come, the bride and the bridegroom have met. And then he says, I am just a friend. So the one thing John the Baptist did was he took himself out of the equation like he didn't need salvation. But he needs it too. He's one of the brides. He's actually the first bride. Right? And then that verse popped in John chapter 3, verse 30. John the Baptist says, hey, guess what? I must become less, Jesus must become greater, right? Think about that. Doesn't that sound so powerful? Wow, that's so great. John the Baptist, so humble, says, Jesus must become greater, I must become less. Now, this is a great statement that many look at and say that John the Baptist is so humble, John the Baptist is so great. But what did Sunseem say about this? He said that this was the wrong thinking. Why? Number one is John the Baptist is one of the brides. He is not watching. He's not a spectator. He is part of the wedding. He is the one that needs salvation just like anyone else. He realized wrongly about himself. He had the wrong thinking, right? John the Baptist needs salvation just as much as anyone else. What, he could get salvation on his own? No, he needs it through Christ too. And they don't, people don't realize that our destinies are tied together. Just as our destinies, Jesus and John the Baptist, their destinies were tied together, right? So if you really think about that, we teach that. We teach that lesson that Jesus and John the Baptist, their destinies are tied together. And the moment John the Baptist was beheaded, he died. Jesus' realization is, I'm going to die, right? So if you really think about it, a lot of what's happening today, right? When you look at the history today and we see what happened with the John the Baptist of this time period, we look at the direction that we are in right now. A lot has to do with the John the Baptist of this time period that could not do their mission correctly. And that's why our lives have been made that much harder, right? So when we look at this, what does it mean? Jesus must become greater, I must become less. Why is that the wrong thinking? Because the bride and bridegroom are one. They're united. You cannot separate them. You cannot say he must become greater and I must become less. It is the wrong way to think. It means that you're separate from the bridegroom. Our destinies are tied. The proper thinking is whatever happens to me happens to the Lord, right? It is what we do together. If I become great, then the Lord becomes great in this world too. If I become a beggar, if I become someone so low in this history, we're bringing the Lord down to that level. We are absolutely connected, right? Like a president and his wife. The president was elected. The wife is the first lady just because she's married to the president. Why? Because they are one. They are united, right? Meghan Markle, just an actress, but she marries a prince and she becomes a princess, not because she is a princess, but because of who she married, right? They're connected as one. The bride and bridegroom are tied together, right? So the big question is, if we really, really understand this deeply, the big question comes to us is, how do you see yourself in the relationship with Christ? Do you see yourself as someone who just lives however you want, someone who doesn't need to try hard or need to do anything with their lives and just kind of lives an ordinary life? Or are you someone that strives for something greater, not for yourself, but for you and the one you love, right? Do you want to make Christ great in this world? Well, in this world, to make Christ great, I'm telling you right now, right? Like, think about this. If you want to make Christ great, there's going to be a problem if you have a church full of beggars and people who have nothing. It's not going to impress any people in the world much. And this is what they will think of Christ, the king of beggars. Of course, I'm not saying that you lose salvation. Of course, the number one thing is about love. But when we see how this world works, we need to strive, right? To make Christ greater, right? When we love someone that much, you want to propel them. You want to support them. You want to help them to become greater, right? It's like a parent who wants the best for their children. A parent doesn't want to see their child suffer, so they'll work even harder for them to do better. That's what I'm talking about. The wanting to be better, the wanting to be a better person, to develop yourself, reach new places so that God would have a greater seat in this world. That in turn, it makes people want to give a chance for God to work in their life, right? It makes a difference if, let me tell you this Taylor Swift, the power of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is now dating an NFL football player. And guess what? Her power is so big, she's got nothing to do with football. But now that her boyfriend is an NFL football player, his jersey sales shot up to number one. Like, that's how big the influence is, right? And then what's the point is when someone is that big, they influence a ton of people. That even though this person has nothing to do with football, this person starts going to NFL games, watching her boyfriend play, and now all of her fans are watching. That's how crazy it is, guys. That's the power of influence when you become great in this world, right? As much as we don't want to admit it, we are more impressed by those that are successful than those that aren't. Right? We're going to go walk up to the people who are successful and ask them, how'd you do it? And if they say it was by my relationship with God, right? It is through Christ that gives me strength. Then people think more deeply about it. That's just the way it is. That's the way the ways people's thoughts and their thinking is, right? And I think that's something like, of course, I'm not telling people that everyone has to be a CEO. I'm not saying that everyone has to be like this huge, like gazillionaire. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about, do you have the mentality, the mindset to see how you are tied to Christ, that the better and better you do, the more you make Christ look good. Right? We are the ambassadors of this history. We are the ambassadors of Christ, and we are the ones that are able to bring Christ into the workplace, bring Christ into your schools, into your families. Right? Like I said, was it 2 days ago? Jim Harbaugh's a football coach, and 70 people, which is, you're talking about 70% of his team, gave their life to Christ and got baptized during his last year. Right? Tell me that's crazy. That's incredible and amazing. And what's he doing? He is using what God has given him, and he's saying everything is about God. And when he becomes successful, he is able to influence more and more people. And it just really reminded me, like, hey guys, that's us. That really is us. We are the ones who must strive to be better people, to be better students, to be better workers, to be better leaders. Why? Because this is all showing who Christ is. Like, I'm a leader, so I was in a leadership position, so I'm talking about myself even right now. I'll tell you straight up, a lot of people lose faith in the church because of leadership. Because of leadership. As you're like, what? Because especially inside the church, the leaders symbolize and represent God. They're representing the head, right? That, everything this person's doing as a spiritual person, they symbolically represent the Lord. Symbolically, right? And if they're doing really bad, and then the next leader's doing bad, the next leader's stubborn, the next leader's like this, the next leader's like that, no one's going to try to do newer things or whatever it is, eventually people are going to be so turned off by it, they're going to be like, there's something wrong with Sunstein. Well, you're a leader. Why? Look at all your leaders. They're all like this, right? And that's why I'm saying that in all situations, but especially those when it comes those that are directly spiritual symbols, leadership of those of the church and of who Christ is, right? Representing God, right? Is not any different than us going into the workplace and being a terrible person, and then they find out you're Christian, and then they'll say, "Oh my gosh, so this is what a Christian's like." It's not any different than that, right? We all have that ambassador role. But we really, really have to strive for that next level, right? Realizing this is what we truly, really need to do. And this is the types of John the Baptist that we truly need, right? The people to bring Christ into every facet and every area of life, right? So, yeah, it was really refreshing for me to be teaching and lecturing. It's been a while, but I am thankful and grateful that I'm able to do this, but very, very thankful that all of us, I'm thankful that I'm getting these opportunities once again, but I got to get I'm seeing how much more I got to be more spiritual. I got to be someone who's got to give the fragrance of Christ, right? And the fragrance of Christ is not a fragrance you smell, but it's a spiritual atmosphere, a spiritual aura that people will sense and feel that you are truly a manly person of God, like a man of God, a woman of God, right? A couple of God, whatever it is, right? So I hope it's something that we can all start to think even more deeply about too. And that's just one of the things that I was really, really thinking about after that weekend also. All right. So, today we do have foundation figures of Christianity. Today I'm going to go over a very famous person that I learned even in my high school days. This guy's name is D.L. Moody. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys know who this guy is. This guy is, most people don't even know who he is, D.L. Moody. But he's a 19th century evangelist. So he is someone in the 1800s, evangelist. He was internationally renowned, and they say that the extent of him, whether it's through his preaching or his writings, they said a conservative figure is that he reached at least 100 million people. He brought the gospel to 100 million people, right? So, this guy is huge. I hope you guys will enjoy this. Is D.L. Moody. I think his full name is like Dwight something. Dwight L. Moody. What is it? Dwight Lyman Moody. All right, so I will go into him after this, but very, very powerful story. I hope you guys enjoy it. But first, let's get into the first break of the day.
turning to a legend. Yeah, I'm turning Super Saiyan. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. I am a legend. Rise to the legends. I am a legend. We are the legends. I am a legend. I am a legend. We are the legends. Rise to the legends. I wanna be a legend, singing to the heavens. Living in the golden city, standing in his presence. Climbing and raising the level to satisfy him. Expectations are so high, you know that we gon' win. The title don't mean nothing if you do nothing. Every time we hit the focus, yeah, we killing something. In the golden city, yeah, we party every day. To be a legend, just do well and just prepare the way. Some in life in my brain, some in life in my veins. When people live to the destiny, that's the greatest joy I own, man. I feel like Kobe, 81, do everything, focus on the one. Sunny boys, trying to be those ones. We got the answers, no other son. Wish I could Kobe in our prime. Jordan Pippen, due time. We breaking records all the time. Pass the rock and I'ma fly. Yeah, I'm turning to a legend. Yeah, I'm turning Super Saiyan. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. I am a legend. Rise to the legends. I am a legend. We are the legends. I am a legend. I am a legend. We are the legends. Rise to the legends. Oh, slow it down, slow it down. People need explanation right now. Just leave a message I can answer right now. Just look at all the things we done, like heroes get remembered, legends never die. I just put to work whatever comes to mind. Getting older, but I swear it's lit all the time. Yeah, we brought a whole crew up, pipe it up. Yeah, we always showing new stuff, live it up. Total shit, but yeah, you don't know what's up. Hit the folks, yeah, we coming up. Write our names in the books, cause we catching up. Rise to the legends, 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 rise to the legends. We are the legends. Wish I could Kobe in our prime. Jordan Pippen, due time. We breaking records all the time. Pass the rock and I'ma fly. Yeah, I'm turning to a legend. Yeah, I'm turning Super Saiyan. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. I am a legend. Rise to the legends. I am a legend. We are the legends. I am a legend. I am a legend. We are the legends. Rise to the legends. Wish I could Kobe in our prime. Jordan Pippen, due time. We breaking records all the time. Pass the rock and I'ma fly. Yeah, I'm turning to a legend. Yeah, I'm turning Super Saiyan. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. I am a legend. Rise to the legends. I am a legend. We are the legends. I am a legend. I am a legend. We are the legends. Rise to the legends. Wish I could Kobe in our prime. Jordan Pippen, due time. We breaking records all the time. Pass the rock and I'ma fly. Yeah, I'm turning to a legend. Yeah, I'm turning Super Saiyan. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. Yeah, I'm honest with saying. I am a legend. Rise to the legends. I am a legend. We are the legends. I am a legend. I am a legend. We are the legends. Rise to the legends.
All right, so let's get into today's word study. And of course, every Wednesday we do have foundational figures of Christianity. We're getting more and more closer into the modern times. And I don't think I'm going to do any modern people who are still living because we don't know how they're going to end, right? Like someone was actually asking me like, hey, why don't you do some like foundational figures of Providence? And I was like, well, if you think about what happened last year, we would all think to ourselves, I could probably do something on KJS, but then we see what happened last year. We don't know what's going to happen until it ends, right? So I was like, yeah, probably not. We'll have to wait until a lot of people die first, so we'll know how their impact was in the future. And I don't know if this, I don't know if this sounds arrogant, but I really do feel that MSD will be part of like an historical look back at the change of moving from like offline preaching to online preaching. I really feel that because even with our espresso channel, we started that 4 years ago, like well before anyone else was thinking about it, talking about it. So I do think that's going to be the thing that pushes people to the next, like, I think it will be studied. I really do, right? It's part of like being part of like pioneering, like being the first to try, the first to do is going to be something people like, oh, wow. And if I even look at my channel, like Espresso with Sky channel, there was such a huge change and shift in it. It started off with me making some recordings in Singapore called Bread Talks, and then it moved to like more success, like, you know, how to become a better person. And then it moved to like straight up Bible stuff. And then now it's going to move into podcasts. So it is quite interesting. It really is. When you look at from the genesis of MSD on Espresso with Sky and MSD, and looking at where it is right now. And I find that very, very interesting. But either way, so we're going to take a look at the life and times of D.L. Moody. All right. So his name is Dwight Lyman Moody, a 19th century evangelist. And he was like an international missionary, spoke to audiences of 10 to 20,000 people at a time. He basically was the one that presented a plan of salvation, and he did it by voice or pen. And like I told you, at least 100 million people, he reached out to 100 million people, and that's conservative in his lifetime. All right, so let's take a look at who D.L. Moody is, right? So Moody was actually born in 1837, right? And this is just a few months before Queen Victoria began her reign, and he died in December of 1899. So he's like, 62, 63 years old. So just 9 days before the turn of the century, Moody's ministry took place in the Gilded Age, a period of dramatic industrial expansion, urbanization, and economic growth. And one historian, obviously critical of both the excesses of the Gilded Age and evangelists like Moody, sarcastically wrote that there was this revivalist Moody, bearded and reckless, with his 280 pounds of Adam's flesh, every ounce of which belonged to God. And it was basically, there's always going to be haters at this time too, right? But Moody was not only a product of his age, but also a herald of a new one. He pioneered techniques of evangelism that remain largely unchanged today. He proclaimed a new eschatology of premillennialism and fostered a new ecumenical spirit. So as people think about Moody's, Moody came from like a very deprived rural boyhood, and his career as an evangelist and educator and his role as a father, he kind of sheds the image of a Victorian antique and emerges kind of more as a real person. So let's kind of get into his life. So in Moody's youth, it contains no hints that he would later become a famous evangelist, right? Born in Northfield, Massachusetts, brick mason's family. Father died when he was only 4, so he's basically raised by his mother, and she had 9 children, all under the age of 13. Now, probably, because of the size of her family, Moody's mother never encouraged Dwight to acquire a good education or study the Bible. And consequently, his total schooling was the equivalent of a 5th grade education today, right? That kind of makes you think about something too, right? At the age of 18, when he attempted to join a congregational church, he failed a simple test of Bible knowledge administered by the deacons. Now, Moody's education was, by most standards, inadequate. He never went to college, never went to seminary, nor was he ever ordained as a clergyman. He spelled phonetically, so his adult letters and sermon outlines abounded in spelling errors as well as grammatical ones, okay? If Moody's education was inadequate, other aspects of his childhood did equip him for his future career. His humble beginnings meant that as an adult, he never lost touch with common folk. He disliked pretense or deference toward those of higher social position. From his mother's heroic efforts to hold the family together, Moody learned the virtues of thrift, hard work, and close family ties. And from his mother, he also acquired tenderheartedness. And as an adult, he repeatedly broke into tears upon realizing that he had unwittingly hurt or offended someone. His public apologies to the offended person were profuse and sincere, and growing up in a farm village that during his childhood became a town with several businesses meant that he felt comfortable in both rural and urban environments. So comfortable, in fact, that at age of 17, he struck out on his own to seek employment as a shoe salesman in his uncle's Boston store. So in Boston, Moody worked in his uncle's shoe store and joined the local YMCA because it offered excellent educational and social opportunities. And at 18, at the urging of his Sunday school teacher, he trusted Christ for forgiveness of sin and was converted. Shortly after this, he moved to Chicago, where he had such great success selling shoes for a variety of employers that within 4 years, he had saved $7,000, which is huge compared to today. Contemporaries who knew him during these years recalled his boundless physical energy, natural shrewdness, and self-confidence, and eternal optimism. Now, Moody might have become an industrial statesman like John D. Rockefeller or a robber baron like Jay Gould, but instead, he was drawn away from business and toward missionary work among poor German and Scandinavian immigrants in the inner city. In 1858, he established a mission Sunday school at North Market Hall. And from this work, 6 years later, the precursor to the Moody Memorial Church was formed, right? So in 1861, he gave up business to work full-time in social and evangelistic endeavors at the YMCA and his Sunday school. Moody's ecumenical spirit and non-denominational preference permitted him great latitude in enlisting teachers and pupils. Tireless, innovative, and unconventional, he recruited new students by offering them candy and free pony rides. Although a monotone singer, he enthusiastically led songs, taught the Bible lessons, dismissed each student by name. Meanwhile, Moody relentlessly sought financial contributions from rich evangelical businessmen such as John Farwell and Cyrus McCormick. And despite Moody's direct, blunt, impetuous personality, philanthropists recognized that he genuinely cared for the urban poor. Now, Moody also devised ministries to the adult community of Chicago. Under his leadership, the YMCA developed a citywide distribution of tracts and held daily noon prayer meetings. His mission held prayer meetings in the evening for adults, as well as Friday teas, and classes in English for recent immigrants. In 1864, he expanded his mission into a church, the Illinois Street Independent Church, for immigrant families. As president of the Chicago YMCA for 4 years and a successful church organizer, he became a popular speaker at YMCA conventions and once spent 4 months visiting and speaking in YMCAs in England. Now, the Great Chicago Fire in October 1871 caused Moody to leave church work for a career as a traveling revivalist. The famous fire destroyed his church, his home, and the local YMCA. At first, he was spiritually depressed, but eventually he realized that too much of his energy had been spent in committee work and fundraising. He determined now to focus on preaching the gospel of Christ, for he was convinced that the world would be changed not by social work, but by the return of Christ and the establishment of his millennial kingdom on earth. His conscious rejection of the old notions of postmillennialism and acceptance of premillennialism impelled him in a vigorous missionary effort for the evangelization of the world in this generation. In the summer of 1873, he boldly set out on faith for England with his song leader, Ira Sankey, and their families. After preaching for 2 years in England, Scotland, and Ireland, he returned to America as an internationally famous revivalist. Immediately, representatives from numerous American cities lobbied him to hold the crusade in their cities. For the next 3 years, from 1875 to 1878, Moody conducted revival campaigns in both large cities like Philadelphia and small towns like Newburyport, in structures ranging from converted skating rinks to abandoned railroad depots. And during these crusades, he pioneered many techniques of evangelism, a house-to-house canvass of residents prior to crusade, an ecumenical approach enlisting cooperation from all local churches and evangelical lay leaders regardless of denominational affiliations, philanthropic support by the business community, the rental of a large central building, the showcasing of a gospel soloist, and the use of an inquiry room. Although continuing to conduct evangelistic crusades, in 1879, D.L. shifted the main focus of his ministry to education. In that year, he established Northfield Seminary for Girls, followed 2 years later by Mount Hermon School for Boys. Finally, in 1886, Moody launched the Bible Work Institute of the Chicago Evangelization Society, renamed the Moody Bible Institute shortly before his death. He hoped that providing a Bible-centered education would produce an army of trained lay people for the work of evangelism in the growing cities of America. In 1880, Moody invited adults and college-age youths to the first of many summer Bible conferences at his home in Northfield. His ecumenical spirit and lack of theological training kept Moody from rigid doctrinal positions, such as those that characterize contemporaries in the holiness, perfectionism, or dispensationalist movements. He invited speakers from diverse theological traditions to these summer conferences. At one conference, the student volunteer movement was founded by 100 collegians who pledged to work in foreign missions after college education. In 1894, as part of the lay training at Moody Bible Institute, he started the Coal Portage Association, an organization using horse-drawn gospel wagons from which students sold religious books and tracts throughout the nation. Now, Moody is usually seen only as a tireless, solidly built revivalist, always pleading with sinners on the sawdust trail. While it is true he preached 6 sermons a day just a month before his death, it was in his role as a father that his personality is best revealed. In 1862, he married Emma Revel, who became the proverbial personality behind the scenes. She mothered his 3 children, while also serving as his personal secretary. All 3 Moody children fondly recalled experiences with a fun-loving, muscular Christian father. One of his son proudly remembered his dad as the greatest man and the best man I have ever known. Moody loved those vacations with his family on his Northfield farm where he could discard his black suits and dress in disreputable old clothes. Here, he played the role of a gentleman farmer, daily riding horse and buggy at breakneck speed throughout the fields, taking an afternoon nap, or huddling over hundreds of letters that he personally signed and then spread around the room for the ink to dry. Dinner guests observed his quick-witted, good-natured personality and his unceasing activity verging on restlessness. They were frequently startled when he opened his mail and then flipped the letter at them, brusquely remarking, "Answer that." As the son remembers him at home, Moody was a stout and bearded Peter Pan, a boy who never really grew up. Possibly compensating for his earlier deprived childhood, he did everything on a dramatic scale. He took baths 3 times a day in ice-cold water. Noting a shortage of china, he ordered barrels of the same pattern. He bought ascots and suspenders by the gross. His son recalls how once his dad couldn't decide which of several oriental rugs to buy, so he impulsively bought them all. Moody was a wonderful storyteller, spending time with both his children and his beloved grandchildren. He relished practical jokes, from mild pranks of hiding a deck of playing cards in his son's college room to dumping a bucket of water on some unsuspecting Northfield students. His advice to his children was often expressed in pithy mottos. Don't wait for something to turn up. Go and turn up something. Or, he would say, the devil tempts most men, but a lazy man tempts the devil. So this is D.L. Moody. And when you listen to his story, it's quite amazing. It really, really is. Because when I look at this, like, here he is coming from a poor family, and then he builds up a church, and then the Great Chicago Fire burns everything down. And, most people would think that that's it. We're done. What am I going to do? How am I going to raise more money to build this church again? But he realizes God's telling him to go out and preach the gospel. And then he starts going out to England, preaching the gospel for 2 years, right? So he took it as God's sign, and God allowed him to go out and speak to tens of thousands of people every single day, right? So, and probably the most inspiring one for me is, you look at these people and you see this great evangelist, great educator, great leader, and he was someone that just made such an impact in history. However, the thing that's most inspiring is his life as a father. Because there's many times you see that there's these great people on the outside, but when you hear about his life at home, on the inside, beating the children, having a bad character and all these different things. But when you look at him, you're like, wow, he was a good father. The kids remembered him as a great father, right? And I think that's something that's it holds even more. That this person wasn't just amazing and great in front of tons of people. He was doing this all for God. But he was someone also in the background that was a great person too. And I hope that's something that we can really, really think about and realize all the more. Yeah, so this is D.L. Moody. 100 million people, the gospel reached out. That is incredible, especially in the 19th century. And he died 6 days before the year 1900. He literally was a 19th century evangelist, revivalist, educator, great father. All right. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you have any thoughts on him, please leave it in the comments below. Okay. So there it is. Right after this, we have Health is Happiness, Part 1 of Depression with Dr. Ziny. So before we get into that, let's move into the second break of the day.
A slave until I came and set you free, took away your pain and suffering, and I parted your Red Sea. You said thank you, hallelujah, this is heaven here on earth. I will live my life rejoicing, giving glory forever. As time went on, your heart changed. Your joy is gone. That's why I say, don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, the promises you made, my love. Don't forget the value of this time, the blessings you received in my domain of grace and love. Don't forget, though you're weaker and outnumbered, I give you the upper hand. Took you from a barren desert to your fertile promised land. You said thank you, hallelujah, you delivered me again. So I'll give my life to you and I will follow till the end. As time went on, your heart changed. Your joy is gone. That's why I say, don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, the promises you made, my love. Don't forget the value of this time, the blessings you received in my domain of grace and love. Don't forget. Cherish it, value it before it's too late, and everything you received gets taken away. Then you'll see that 1,000 years out there, it's nothing like just one day with me. Don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, 1,000 years out there. It's nothing like just one day with me.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for this wonderful Wednesday. We're going to get into Health is Happiness, and Dr. Ziny has a two-part series on depression. Everyone, please enjoy. Please welcome all the way over there from Canada. This is Dr. Ziny with Health is Happiness.
Hi everyone, it's another Wednesday, and welcome to Health is Happiness. I'm your host, Dr. Ziny, a family doctor in Ontario, Canada. Today we're going to continue our mental health mini-series and focus on depression. In episode 27, where we talked about anxiety, we learned the importance of gaining control over both our body and our mind in order to de-escalate anxiety. Just like with anxiety, depression attacks the very thing that we need in order to overcome and cope with our mental health condition, our mind and our thoughts. The way we think and our unhealthy thought patterns can be the center of many mental health conditions, including anxiety and depression. Today, we're going to talk about a powerful tool that can be used to help correct your thoughts called CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. Before we start, this is a disclaimer that any education provided here about mental health should not replace seeking medical help, seeing your counselor, psychotherapist, or taking specific medications. What I say may not be applicable to you. So let's get started. What is depression? Depression is common. We've all experienced it at one point or another, and it may not manifest in the typical way we imagine. In some people, it manifests as anger or irritability. For others, they're quiet and more withdrawn. It may not be all tears and crying. There could be a number of different triggers. We may have had a loved one pass away or become sick. Maybe our own health has declined. We may have lost our jobs or had financial troubles. We may have had a falling out of a relationship. See, those who misunderstand depression may think it's something you can just snap out of. They may assume that if you're resilient and you have the right mentality, then you won't feel depressed. This isn't the case. Even the most resilient and optimistic people can feel depressed or suffer from clinical depression. To be clear, just because you feel depressed doesn't mean God doesn't love you or is punishing you, or that you don't believe in God enough, or that your faith is weak or you did something wrong. And some people may even blame the person for feeling depressed, thinking that it's all their fault. It's not that simple. The person who is depressed often wants to get better, but is struggling to do so. We're very fortunate in Providence that we have our faith, knowing firmly that the Holy Trinity is with us, and we can entrust everything to them. And we have Sensingim to guide us in our everyday struggles. Sensingim did teach us to take responsibility and try to align our thoughts with God through the word and prayer. This is to discern what's right or wrong, which thoughts are ours and which are Satan's, and throw out unhealthy thoughts as soon as possible. Some sadness is normal, and not all depression warrants medical attention or therapy. If your depressive symptoms last longer than expected, is recurrent, or it's severe or disproportionate to the situation, and it starts to interfere with your everyday life, then it's depression that requires medical attention. If your depression is earlier onset at a younger age, and you have a strong family history of mental health problems, then it's more likely you would need medical attention. The clinical definition of major depression involves feeling low mood or low interest for at least 2 weeks, associated with 4 other symptoms: excessive feelings of guilt or low self-worth, increased or decreased appetite or unintentional weight gain or weight loss, decreased concentration and attention, fatigue or loss of energy, psychomotor retardation, which is a slowing down of thought or movements that others can see, or psychomotor agitation, feeling of restlessness, insomnia or hypersomnia, which means sleeping too little or too much, self-harm thoughts, thoughts of suicide or not wanting to live. These symptoms have to interfere with a person's daily life, such as work, school, or relationships. it's important to seek medical help if there are any thoughts of suicide or self-harm. As mentioned before, part of taking action is changing our bad habits, including unhealthy thought patterns. There's no denying that the way we think affects our mood and our behavior. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, can be used to identify and correct unhealthy thought patterns and help you develop a healthier way of thinking. As its name suggests, the premise behind CBT is that our cognition, or our thoughts, shapes our behavior. This therapy aims at identifying those very thoughts that cause negative feelings that may then lead us to behave in a certain way. So, it starts at the source of thoughts. So let's talk about unhealthy thought patterns. We're all guilty of these from time to time. Sometimes it's our own thoughts, and other times they're from Satan. Sometimes it's not so easy to distinguish. But the key is to practice recognizing them and throwing them out right away so that they don't become a habit or a pattern. See, every time you think those thoughts, your neurons keep firing along those same pathways. It's as if you're telling yourself those things hundreds of times. Then it unfortunately becomes automatic, and pretty soon all you think are unhealthy thoughts. To overcome this, you have to make conscious effort to retrain your brain from looping and re-looping in that direction. Just like you have to make effort to stop a bad habit or to overcome an addiction, you have to make effort to reflect on your thoughts and to get rid of negative thought patterns. We have to change that pattern. In order to help us with this, I'm going to go over some common negative thought patterns. The first one is extreme thinking. Using the words always or never. For example, I always fail. I'm never good at anything. I always look terrible. Nobody ever cares about me. I can never succeed. I'm always so stupid and clumsy. Notice in these examples, there are no gray areas in between. It's always or never. The next negative thought pattern is, I can't. I'm going to mess this up. It's impossible. I can't stems from self-doubt and lack of confidence, but might be associated with past experiences where something didn't go well. Or it could be from watching poor outcome from another person. However, it leads to the feeling of failure and low self-worth. The third negative thought pattern is mind reading. That's assuming you know what others are feeling or thinking, and so you jump to false conclusions about how others are viewing or judging you. They think I'm boring. They think I don't know what I'm talking about. The next negative thought pattern is, I should. I should statements. I should have done better. I should have said this. I should have expressed myself differently. I should have done this and that. So you're blaming yourself unnecessarily and holding yourself to unrealistic standards. I should have means you knew what was coming, so you should have done something about it. It assumes you can predict the future, which is unrealistic, and it can trigger feelings of guilt or failure. Another negative thought pattern is catastrophizing. That's where your mind always jumps to the worst outcome, and you're not seeing that a positive outcome is a possibility. This could make you feel unnecessarily worried, anxious, or a sense of doom. A sixth negative thought pattern is the half-glass empty phenomenon. That is, they see half-glass empty instead of half-glass full, or they don't realize that the glass is half empty and half full. This is when someone only sees the negative aspects of a situation while ignoring the positive. They're magnifying the negative and minimizing the positive. This can cause that person to feel overly pessimistic and not feel satisfied with what they have, and they may miss blessings in their circumstances because of their limited perspective. A seventh negative thought pattern, and the final one I'll review here, even though there are dozens and dozens of unhealthy thought patterns, is the double standard. This is where you're overly hard on yourself and you hold yourself to an unreasonably high standard compared to everyone else. You're being a self-bully. I should look a lot younger than I do, even though that person looks 5 years older and we're the same age. That's because we don't age in Providence. Okay, now that we've gone through 7 common negative thought patterns, Hopefully that will help you reflect upon and recognize unhealthy thoughts. In the next episode, we'll go over in detail how we can use CBT to correct unhealthy thought patterns that provoke the feelings of anxiety and depression. We'll also talk about how we can realign our thoughts with God to overcome mental health conditions like depression. So it's now the end of this episode. Take care and join us for the next episode on depression.
And thank you so much, Dr. Ziny, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. This is a rerun, but something that we should all be reminded of at all times. So thank you so much for all the doctors and all the hard work they did making these episodes. Of course, we're going to continue to play a lot of different things we may have heard in the past, but there's a lot of people on, new people here on MSD that haven't heard them either. And, we need to be reminded. Why? Because if you forget, you will die. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I had. Everyone enjoyed the Wednesday service tonight, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive,